Welcome to the Insights Career Network. This is our special session on AI-enabled insights. We're going to get into AI moderator tools in our first AI-powered moderation project, research project. It's been a great experience for Melanie and I at the Insights Career Network, who are experienced researchers in both qual and quant. And now we're doing our first qual at scale project for the first time. We've been doing that for the last few months, and we're really happy to share our experience in doing this. So just setting the stage, Andrew Cannon and the Art of Science and Joy nonprofit came to us at the middle of last year, into last year, looking to do some research to further his understanding, our understanding of the drivers of joy and the things that get in the way of joy. That is, the things that help us experience joy, and the things that keep us from acknowledging or recognizing that joy in our lives, things that get in the way. This is just one of the several projects he has going on. One of the other efforts he has going on is EQ Joy, which is a card game to help kids recognize emotions and to be able to call them out as to what they are. And so once you identify them, you can speak to how to address them or how to embrace them. So it's an interesting organization to go check out. They're helping kids up their EQ understanding at eqjoy.org. So they came to us. They said, "Look, we're looking for to understand this process a little bit more, to understand these drivers and barriers a little bit more, and we're doing a multi-phase project. This particular qual stage is going to inform the next stage, which is quant. And I'll say that we also started this project with mini groups, several mini groups moderated by ICN people, with ICN unemployed people, talking about, again, some of these really sensitive topics, especially around joy, your personal feelings around joy, but also we dug into special interest areas like unemployment. What does unemployment do to your ability to feel joy, identify joy, and where does it get in the way? Some people had higher joy scores than when they were unemployed than what they recall when they were employed, because moving on can have a positive effect too. So we did start with those mini groups online, and then we moved to AI moderated interviews, because we thought, these are sensitive topics. We want to make sure people are comfortable and that dynamic when you're talking to somebody or someone else is in the room with you, to where you might change your responses on some of these more sensitive topics. So we went with Forelight, which is one of our partners to help us do AI moderation and analysis. It's a very cool tool. You can check it out at the URL there. They do have a small business program where it's free or inexpensive for independents. So go check that out. The sample that we used, the people who participated in the study, we had about 20 folks from the Insights Career Network, again, unemployed. We had students, we had Gen Pop, all recruited from Quest Mindshare and from Forelight. So we kind of mix those in. We'll get into the details in just a moment. But long story short, we were able to do qual at scale and understand things that we may not have found if we had only been able to do 20 or 30 interviews because of human constraints. Right? We were able to get more different segments. We were able to collect more data, which probably helped us find things we weren't able to get. We would not be able to get with a smaller number of responses. Definitely freed us, especially with the AI analysis, freed up our researchers' time to be able to focus more on what does this mean. We could have spent as long as we wanted to on this because we had so much data, but we were able to, again, with those tools, to be able to cut down the analysis time significantly. I think you'll find out a lot more about this study in particular at the end of the year when the book comes out, where we start doing more speaking engagements around this. Here's the Gantt chart for what it looks like to run an AI project. Some of this is really similar to your traditional research project, whatever mode, between planning and crafting the interview guides and tuning those up and testing it. You're going to be doing all that kind of stuff with surveys as well. But there's some specific areas, of course, where the human really needs to be playing a new role in this, and that's especially in quality assurance. One of the tips that I have here on the left, you'll find, is that to make sure you're doing the quality assurance and tagging all the way from the first interview all the way to the end, because every one of those interviews is different, and you want to make sure that your data is in there. And it also helps to be able to talk about quota from a sense of completes. Like, so if you know which ones you're going to throw out, identify those things earlier and the reasons why throwing them out, or at least putting them to the side. So all those things are really important. I think doing that constantly as they come in will really help you get this project done on time. Um, Clearly define your audience, clearly define the things you want to tag, the things that are important to you, that you want the people you want to have in the group. Make sure you're testing with people who aren't familiar with the project. Set the expectations for the participants. That's a big part of it. We're used to recruiting people from surveys, for surveys that are going to come in really quick and they want to get out as quickly as possible. And there's a certain set of answers. Now we're asking them to do unstructured interviews, and we want as much content as they can give us, as much useful sentences, use as many scriptures as you can. So part of this is letting them know on the way in, hey, this is an AI moderated interview. It's going to be different, and we want this to be more of a conversation and not a quick complete. So some of that helps with when you're recruiting with people who are from different communities. The Insights Career Network, people knew something about this study, and they wanted to see the results. They wanted to know about the experience first off, but also they got pulled into the responses. So we were able to get absolutely quality responses from a community. Was they wanted to give us their feedback versus somebody who wanted to get their surveys complete. All right, so and one other thing, I think, we want to make sure that just for quality assurance, but if there's something you really want to know, make sure you build that into the interview, not just the screener. You want to make sure that you're getting them, maybe it's even verifying something they've done in the screener, but make sure you build those questions into your segmenting questions into your discussion guide. Now, Melanie Sokol, who's been doing so much of the hands-on work for this study, is going to come up and join us. She's going to talk about a lot of the different experiences that she's had with running the project, managing the project, and especially the analysis side, which it starts bringing more value when we're talking about a larger data set of unstructured data, with really where we need AI to help us out. So Melanie, come on up. I'll let you share your screen.
Thank you, Brian. Let's get started. So first question or a summary for those of you who are curious about how does AI moderated research work, I would say it's like assembling IKEA furniture without instructions. It's really exciting in the beginning, it gets frustrating in the middle, and it's really satisfying at the end. So there's nothing like watching AI generate a discussion guide in seconds. And then you start to look into the details. You could actually do an entire AI study completely automated and have the researcher write the guide, write the analysis, but you need to look closer. So there's a lot of trial and error involved, but the key thing is really the more you put in and the better information you put in, the better information you're going to get out. And there's it takes time to understand how the system works and really know how to adjust it to get the best results. That could make or break your study is the research brief. It's probably the most critical tool that you have. Our first brief was both vague and complicated. It had quotas and screeners that didn't make sense. And also it didn't have enough detail or context for AI to write a thorough guide. So after multiple iterations, we were able to come up with a research brief that got us the results that we were looking for. And that ended up being 13 pages, partly because we included the taxonomies, which had CSV details and they were quite lengthy, but basically the more context you give AI, the better. And this is one of the reasons why when you're doing the analysis, you want to make sure you have the labels and segments defined up front, because this is what's going to generate the level of detail and the analytics behind the AI questions. So the first guide seemed really, really off or strange. We had some that were too short and generic, some that probed too much, and we didn't get the right segments of labels. So this was a lot of trial and error in creating multiple briefs and testing them to get the right results. I would say the taxonomies were probably one of the most helpful in terms of being able to identify the labels for analysis. So to AI or to not AI. The difference here is you've got several different ways you can create your guides. You can use your own guide that you write and paste the text in, or you can generate from a brief, and then you can have AI generated, hitting that AI button just to have your content in. And I would say the first result is not always the best. You want to revise and tweak to make sure that you're getting what you're looking for, and also test it to make sure that it makes sense as you're going through the interviews. So the first AI interviews that we did test were a little bit weird. Leo, the moderator, went off script. We had some interruptions, long pauses. It was just really awkward to start. We work with Forlight, who helped us change some of the settings to improve the experience. And the ultimate thing here is we really need to test what you're doing before you go live. we needed to explain AI to both participants and to the moderator. And I'll give you an example shortly, but really what we needed to do was tell Leo how to moderate the group, give it the tone and voice that it needed, instruct it on letting participants answer and give them the time to answer their responses, and probe where needed. And then for participants, we explained in the screener up front that this was going to be an AI moderated interview, but we also needed to do it again in the introduction to get familiar with things like you don't need to type your responses. All you need to do is speak your responses. We ultimately ended up turning the video off for our interviews, given the topic and the sensitivity behind some of the things of unemployment and speaking about joy and fear, which also helped with our results. So let me give you an example of what the experience looks like from Leo, our team member.
Hello. It's great to see you. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for participating in this interview session. This conversation will be moderated by Leo, an AI-powered market researcher. Please speak your responses out loud and note that audio will be recorded as you speak to help us gather insights for analysis. Ensure you're in a quiet space for the best sound quality, and please authorize access to your microphone so we can proceed smoothly. Plan to remain in the session until the end to complete the interview. This session will last about 20 to 30 minutes. We'll be talking about joy today. There are no right or wrong answers. Please take your time and provide detail in your answers. Feel free to ask Leo a question if you need help, and he'll provide more details. Are you ready to start?
So that's an example of the experience. Again, turning off the video helped a lot, and also giving Leo instructions with tone of voice as he was moderating were very helpful in improving the experience. In addition, we learned a lot from Ricky and Susie. Brian and I created alternate ego personalities as we were doing test interviews. And we tested absolutely everything on ourselves, from the audio, video, all the way to the analysis, to make sure we were giving the right experience before we launched live. And in addition to ourselves, because we were so familiar with the work and what was coming, we tested with people who had never seen it before. And that's where we had somebody who was looking maybe to type their answers rather than speak their answers, and where we got clear on that. And it also gave us information on a new view and a new perspective of things that we could improve. So one of the things using AI is you still need to be careful. This is an example of asking AI to give me, on the analysis, an answer to a quantitative rating question. And you can see here in two different prompts, it gave me, to the same prompts, it gave me two different answers. And it was using a different pool of people. Even asking it to use all participants, it gave me a funny answer. So after a lot of playing around with this, I would not recommend using any kind of quantitative responses here. Use the qualitative insights, and this is where we actually use these insights to inform the quantitative questionnaire. And it goes the same with pretty much other questions that you're asking. You need to be very, very careful to review the responses to understand and make sure that it is actually giving you the results. And this is where you can see here, ran multiple examples to make sure that I was getting the right results that I was looking for. One unique way I used, and I think getting creative gave me some really interesting results. Instead of using the quotes from the AI chats, you can turn those on and off in Forelight. Instead of using those because they became very long in the summary responses, I actually asked it a different way, and I created a separate chat to give me the best quotes. And even with a very simple chat here, you can see it gave me a nice methodology for and the criteria for analysis. So I was much more comfortable with giving me better results than just picking one or two quotes that I didn't know where they came from. Asking it for information that you might not know of or what's missing also give you some very interesting surprise results. And again, going back to the better input equals better output, same here with the chats and asking better and smarter prompts. You can see I used a number of different chats here, and even within those, I did multiple iterations and probes to get even more detail. How you phrase the question is going to give you different results potentially, so try different iterations and see what works best for you. And again, make sure you review all of the results. You may be getting some errors, and it does hallucinate occasionally. So make sure you review the results to get what you're looking for, and then also compare and contrast. That's actually what I did here. So I actually took the insights and moved them into ChatGPT. So I had multiple chat results that I put in Word, then I put them in ChatGPT. I created a project in ChatGPT, so I uploaded the files. And this gave me the ability to query on them and also give AI instructions about how to ask the questions and how it was going to be used to get even better results. So comparing different results as well as validation. And then this is actually where I use the results from ChatGPT to build the presentation and analysis. To make that even easier, I use Gamma, which is an AI tool for writing presentations. There's also other platforms out there. This one was free to test, so I use this. Beautiful AI is another one as an example. What it does is it'll give you different options, and I tested multiple ways of using AI to generate the content and also using my content and preserving the content. And also what saved time, I think the most time, was uploading a presentation. So I built a theme. So the presentation format was already written at the push of a button. While it generated a presentation in minutes or even seconds, I did create multiple versions and compare those as well, just to do a second quality check and make sure we weren't getting errors or hallucinations. The one big thing and takeaway here is there's still editing that's required. So ultimately, at the end, when you get your presentation into PowerPoint or Google Slides, you're still going to need to do some work editing and making sure that you're looking at the content that you put in there and that you want to present in the back end, and also change some of the formatting. So if I were starting AI for the first time, key things I would take away and start with is, number one, be ultimately super specific with the research brief. That is going to generate most of the outputs. So it is highly important and critical that you get your research brief right. Again, test as you're going through. Don't boil the ocean. When you get to the analysis, it's easy to get lost in chats and data and summaries. And I highly recommend starting with the big questions first and then probing later. Make sure you check your work, and also think about using your expertise. This is the part where AI really can't contribute and you add the value. And saving time on the analysis gives you more time to focus on adding your research expertise and also the business insights that AI might not know. A few more takeaways. AI won't replace us because there's still things that need to be done. You really need to be careful with PII, personally identifiable information, to make sure that your participants' privacy is safe. There's always bias in the models and how they were trained, and also potentially what you put into it. Checking for errors and making sure you've got the correct data using AI. And also the part where it's really a complement rather than a replacement is that emotional and cultural context, which AI doesn't necessarily do the best job of, especially with cultural context and images. We put together a list of tools for you. We've got some learning that is free, and I encourage you to even just check out free courses on LinkedIn. We've got some example tools of different types of AI research, and then research tools that are specific to AI that are free, that cover a number of different things that we would use in the market research field. And always, we encourage you to read articles and stay on top of what the latest, because it is changing so rapidly. I think we can wrap it here.